Oh,
All right, 6:35, is that okay?
yeah, let's do it.
Archer,
Yes.
Carpenter,
Yes.
McElroy,
Yes.
Salisbury,
Yes.
McKee.
Yes. Moving on to administrative reports. Dan, can you take over? Yeah, we have a few things, but I want to start off, I think most of you know Rusty Bookman, representing Energy Optimizers tonight, and Josh Bredovich with SHP. Energy Optimizers has served as our general contractor on our last couple projects. SHP and Josh has actually been our architect here for numerous projects for over the last 8 years. And so Josh, from an architectural standpoint, is responsible for the design of everything we have going on phase 3. And then our playground project is actually a separate project with SHP. Then Energy Optimizers is running our phase 3 project. So I'll just turn it over to Rusty or Josh. Which one? Sure. Great to have you.
Thank you, Mike. Are we okay if we stand back here? Can everybody hear me okay? Okay, I'm gonna take your mask off. I'm trying to keep away from everybody. And Trina, if you can give me my PDF, please. Thank you. So thanks again for having us tonight. Dan asked us if we would come in and give the team just a quick update. First, I'll update you on where we are with phase 3 and the playground project. Just give you some target dates and how those projects are finishing up. And then we're going to talk a bit about phase 4, talk about the scope and schedule and budget for what phase 4 is going to look like, mostly here at the high school with some work at the elementary and middle school. And then finally, we're going to talk a bit about the future phases. We're in the process of doing some site master planning. And so I'm going to give you a timeline on how that's going to unfold and what those improvements are going to look like. First, I'd like to give Rusty just a second to remind everybody about the process that we've used for the last couple of phases. So just a reminder, this is the process that we would also use for phase 4.
Yeah, so as most of you know, I'm Rusty Bookman once again, and so I know everybody here is familiar faces, and so I do want to say before I really talk about anything about House Bill 153 is that my wife accompanied me here today, and she was fortunate enough to walk around. We have one jealous retired second grade teacher, which is on the playground. So it's phenomenal. So you guys should have great pride in that. Basically, I'm just going to hit the highlights of House Bill 153. That's what we use in all these phases and plan as we move forward with phase 4. That's where the district hires a criteria architect who's employed by the district. That individual or group is responsible for developing the scope. They then turn that scope over to us or a general contractor, and the last 3 phases that's been us. And then we go out and solicit subcontractors to complete the work for the district. The beauty of it is, from the next superintendent standpoint, is you avoid all the OFCC guidelines and regulations that really slow down the project if you've been involved in one type of project. We have moved pretty quick in this phase 3 and have been really pleased with the results. That's one big reason. The other reason is you get to work with those vendors that you've established good relationships with. Those of you who've been around this game long enough know that low bid and best project usually don't line up. And so it behooves the district to be working with someone that they feel confident in, that they've had a good, solid working relationship with in the past. So that helps those things move forward. And it provides that transparent, open dialogue amongst all the people at the table. And so I'm just going to comment that Dan made today, and Justin commented as well, is this last phase that we've done, we feel like we have a really, really strong team of subcontractors and vendors working together on this project. You know, everything's it's been transparent, and I think it's been really beneficial for the district. So, but then the last thing with that too is the fact that, like I say, your oversight of OFCC is going, but you're really getting better bidding process by going to House Bill 153. Because those of you that know Dave, he doesn't have a hard time working the numbers to try to get the project at the best price for the district. So in some of these instances, when we've done stuff, it's not just been 3 competitive bids, it's been 4 or 5. So that's beneficial to the district. So, If anybody has any questions about actually the House Bill 153 process, but we at Energy Optimizers, we feel we're glad that you worked with us, and we continue to have that strong relationship with you. And we talk about you guys around the state. We're all over the place. We talk about the good things you're doing here. So kudos for that. Keep up the good work.
Any other questions?
I think the other piece about the bidding, there's never an open and shut bid period.
Right.
I mean, it's ongoing continuously. If I don't like the price Guy gives me today, I can call Ed tomorrow. Like there's no open and shut bid period. I think that's really been important as construction trends change throughout the region. You know, our bids can change and adjust as well.
So what I'd like to do then is give you a quick update on where we are with phase 3 and with the playground project. And where Dan take the picture. And then, so what's been going on, obviously, a lot of work here at the high school, the addition, kitchen renovations, student dining renovation, and then obviously the kitchen renovation over at the middle school. Just some milestones that are coming up. The addition finishes are completing next week, so flooring's going in right now. They've finished up painting. We'll see technology going on over the next week or so. We're anticipating that the kitchen inspections, which will be the next milestone coming up, should be around the last week of August, and staff's going to receive training on September 1st. And after they receive training, we're going to do final punch in kitchens, and we're going to look to do final punch in the addition and student dining space around the 28th. So next week, by the end of next week, we're going to be coming back in to do the punch list and starting to do, basically close out the contractors. We're getting very close on both of those projects to completion. And we do believe that both kitchens are going to be, will pass inspections and be up and operational before kids get here. All of the spaces at this point are almost complete. We're about to the point where we can start moving into the spaces. The addition, obviously there's a bit of work that needs to be done next week, but once the ceilings go into those areas, they'll effectively be about done. There's been a little hiccup, I think, in the weight training equipment. The delivery dates have pushed out a few days. But they're still going to tentatively be done by the end of next week with delivery and put the equipment together.
That's due to a fire.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, there was the fire. I don't know, Dan, was it a warehouse or shipping?
They put in they put a new very large paint booth into a very old building. So the paint booth was new, the ventilation, et cetera, was old, and nothing actually caught on fire, but the smoke obviously.
Done down for
So they're back out now.
Okay. Interesting stuff. So things are finishing up for phase 3, and so we'll be working to the punch, be closing those contractors out. So in the month of September, Trinity, you're going to be seeing, final paperwork coming up for the contractors and final billing. And so, we're very happy with the way that those projects have finished up. And we're equally happy and very proud of what's happened over at the playground. The playground project looks amazing. If you haven't been over, you need to go take a walk. Wolf Creek has done great work over there. Game Time and their installers have done really good work. The equipment installation is all complete. They're finishing up the pavement. There's still a couple of areas that they need to pour some concrete and do some mulching, and there's still some landscaping that's ongoing over there. But we're very close to having the playground project pretty much wrapped up to the point where kids can start using it. They just installed all the sod today, so the courtyard area, if you know roughly where that's at, we sodded that interior area of the courtyard because we knew all the kids would be running sort of over that grass area, and just there's no way that we're going to get grass seed to take off fast enough to not make those areas a muddy mess. So there's still some work that needs to be done. There's still obviously a little bit of grading and final kind of prep work going on, but that's all going to be finished up. I would say they'll be probably completely done by next week as well. And so, it really looks very sharp. We've gotten really high compliments from even Game Time, the installer, the folks that did the equipment and did the surfacing, keep saying how impressed they are with the overall layout, and they're going to use that as a showpiece. So you can expect that your pictures of your playground equipment are going to end up in their magazine and in their publication. And we're very proud of how that's come out. Yes, please.
Josh, we had an inspector from our insurance company come and inspect the playgrounds
Yeah.
last week. And she goes all over the state, of course, and she was very complimentary as
Good.
well.
Awesome.
And as of today, at 6:45, we're currently under budget.
Awesome.
Currently.
He doesn't say that out loud.
We'll update you again next month.
That could change tomorrow. But yes, we are currently under budget on that project as well. So very happy with the way those projects are wrapping up and look forward to seeing both of those projects complete and get closed out here in the next month. So with that, what I'd like to do is I'd like to move on to phase 4 and talk to you a bit about what the scope is for phase 4. And I've got some floor plans to kind of give you a visual of where we're going to be working. Just a reminder, the way that we've sort of scoped out phase 4 is really completing the high school, right? That's really what it boils down to. And so there's some remaining abatement work that needs to be done. We've still got some of the old asbestos vinyl tile in the building that needs to be taken out. There's still a little bit of pipe wrap that needs to be done. But for the most part, there's a limited asbestos package. And then the lion's share of what we're going to be doing is really these classrooms in this main hall, going in and bringing them up to the same level of finish and furniture as to what we did in the science, basically in the science wing. So that'll be new finishes, new casework, new furniture. In the art and music rooms, we'll be going into those areas and getting new equipment in the art rooms, new sound system and music. And then also doing finishes and casework and furniture in both of those spaces and their support spaces. Locker room renovations, so both boys and girls locker rooms, going in, doing new shower fixtures, cleaning up the lockers. Some of the lockers will be remaining, some of them will be replaced, new partitions for bathrooms, all those kinds of things. New fixtures, plumbing fixtures for bathrooms. The auditorium, doing a full finish renovation in the auditorium, so new flooring, new seating, sound panels and sound system, stage lighting, additional curtain work. So really bringing the auditorium up to a 21st century auditorium space. Main office, the biggest change to the main office will be adding a secure entry vestibule. So as you come in your front door, we're going to look at blowing in a new door that will lead you into what is now the workroom of the office. We're going to change that to the reception area. So basically be kind of a flip of the way that the main office works. So the current reception area that feeds into the cross connect hallway would then become the workroom, and the workroom now become the main reception area. And then we'll also do some adjustment of office spaces with that work. And so again, new finishes there, new furniture. And then over at the elementary middle school, we're going to look at doing a LED lighting retrofit for both the interior and the exterior of that building. And so that'll bring the lighting fixtures to up to current code, up to current standards, and also provide you with a pretty substantial cost savings. And so that project's a high priority and one that we want to get moving as quickly as we can.
So does that include the lighting on the drive?
I don't know the exact scope of the exterior.
I'll have to check on them.
I'll find out.
But one of the things we spoke about today is that in each of those bays over there with that nice playground, we're gonna look to extend those can lights down so that we can shine light out on the playground. It'll help security wise, and plus it'll light the ground that nice. It's gonna give you a good perimeter lighting opposed to what those can lights will do. So I spoke to Dave about that today. Nothing major in the change in scope goes, but I just think it's gonna be a higher quality lighting for the playground. It's gonna show it off. It's gonna showcase it. And the other thing too, I didn't see in there either, I want to add Josh just to the safe side, is we talked about putting a security window in from where the secretary's at, so when you get in the first door there, it'll create a safe space. So if anybody shows up in the building, they'll have a window with a service window, a service panel. So if they're bringing Johnny's book or whatever, they don't have to come in the building completely with that. So it adds a little security feature, and for the price to do it, it's well worth it. So, and that was probably decided after we did this.
So Kevin's question would be, so tonight we're going to ask you later to approve a not to exceed number. This is the big concepts. And then obviously to get in more detail, we have to have some guarantee to start putting some designs and some actual scope of work, and that's what Al would do for it. So tonight's resolution gives them that, hey, we're ready to go. We're going to cap our expenditures at this. Now we'll come back the next time with a lot more defined scope. And quite frankly, I don't think the scope in this project in regards to the lighting I do not believe includes that, the road entryway. This doesn't relate, other than the building and around the building, to that walk that we took that night beyond that one area. But it's something when we actually do pin down an actual number, we might want to expand and do a little bit more.
It wouldn't be hard to get them.
Yeah.
What, when you say locker room renovations, you said, is that high school and elementary? Okay, thank you.
So, just quickly at the high school, just everything that you see in the light green, obviously the spaces that we haven't touched yet. We've done the HVAC renovations, done the lighting renovations, but we really haven't done furniture and finishes. And so as you look, that kind of gives you a better understanding of sort of the areas that we need to get into. The hallways, we are looking at going in and, over the renovations, hallway floors, the terrazzo floors have gotten pretty beat up. And so there is a company that does terrazzo polishing, so they'll come in and actually polish those floors back up and, get them to a more like new condition. Because they got pretty beat up in the HVAC and lighting project, just with the contractors, doing normal work, dragging equipment from here to there and bringing all the equipment into each of the spaces and all the stuff that happened there. So that's included in this project. If you take a look at the science wing hallway and the ag ed and wood shop and metal shop, obviously a lot of that stuff's already been done in that zone of the building. And so we're really just looking at doing the corridors in that zone. That's about the extent of the work that needs to be done in that portion of the building. And then obviously in the remaining section of the building, since gyms have already been taken care of, kitchen and student dining and concessions are all part of phase 3. So it's really the auditorium, the locker rooms, music and art, the rest of the office, the secure entry vestibule, and then the boys' locker room over on the far east side. So it just kind of gives you a graphic of what's remaining in the building as far as bringing everything up to the same standard as far as finishes and furniture.
But for everything in the light green, that's gonna go pretty good.
Yeah.
Basically just paint and cleaning it up,
Yeah, a lot of it is, for sure. The locker room scope's a little bit more expensive.
Well, yeah.
In the boys' locker room area, we are going to have to take out the floors in the shower and the bathroom area. So there will be going back in and pouring new floors in there. Just, there's no good way to do that work without ripping the floor up. So yeah, but you're right, it is a lot of finished work. And so it should go quickly, which we're hoping for. And obviously, there's a lot of furniture that we need to kind of consider and work against the budget. That's going to be probably the most challenging area, just because there's a lot of different ways that could go.
Widen that stall in there, that boys' bathroom. Keeps getting narrower.
Maybe that ain't the problem yet.
Hey, listen,
I'm not blaming it on.
we're not miracle workers.
To give you a kind of high level understanding of what the schedule would look like. So we've been working since June to kind of put together the budget and look at the planning and say, okay, how much scope can we really bite off with a $2 million project cost? And so we feel like we've got that number pretty well defined. I mean, it's going to get more detailed as we move forward. But our goal is going to be that tonight, if you choose to move forward and cap that number and allow us to proceed, the next steps would be in September or October, Al would start to get together, putting together criteria docs, just like he's done on your past projects. And that ultimately becomes what we start to work for the design against. And then we'd also like to really get started on that K-8 lighting retrofit, because that project could move forward immediately. And that project is really a cost savings for you. So the sooner that it can be done, that work can be done after hours, in areas of the buildings where the students aren't, those kinds of things, and it can really take off and be done concurrently with kids being in the building or in the evenings, because it's really just a fixture swap out. You're really just taking one fixture out and putting another one in, and so it can proceed in a pretty quick fashion, so that you can start to realize that savings yet this year. In November through February would really be us working through the design and putting the development and construction documents together so that we've got the final bid documents that really define the scope. And so I would see coming back to the board probably sometime near the end of that phase to sort of show you where we're at and show you where the final scope has come to landed. In March, April, Energy Optimizers would be looking at bidding and getting real hard bid numbers. We definitely are going to, start with the team that we've developed with phase 3 because they have been very successful. But we will be reaching out to other contractors so that we get competitive numbers from everybody and make sure that we're getting the best value for the project. And so if we can get that all wrapped up in March and April, that would give the contractors plenty of time to start ordering materials and to mobilize as soon as the last day of school hits. And then our goal again, as usual, is to try and be complete by August of 2021, excuse me. Those March, April dates would be 2021 and August would be 2021. So again, a summer project that we think will move pretty quickly. And obviously with the budget, what we've talked about is that the scope that we're looking at right now, we're looking at a not to exceed $2 million. But that would be the all-in number. That would include all of the management and the design services and the permits and the printing and all of that scope that we typically have included as part of the phase 2 and phase 3. Anybody have any questions on any of that before I proceed forward?
I think I want to put out, remind everybody the reason, our planning has always been around what we believe were necessities, and we've handled the infrastructure, electrical, plumbing, all those things. We're moving into some things I think we probably consider luxuries, playground. This really finishes off, but we wanted to do this within this budget because knowing what the potential for phases 5, 6, and 7 might look like, we did not want to exhaust one annual year's transfer. We wanted to make sure that we could carry over at least 50% of that to apply to potentially some of the bigger projects later. The initial numbers that we have really look promising. So we believe that Trent and I are comfortable with this being our max. Hopefully it's less. And then we would just start making modifications to the criteria if we had to.
And that includes the 200,000 contingent.
Any other questions on phase 4?
But then in theory, we would still be able to, referring back to the forecast, still be able to do our transfer of 4 million and start accumulating some savings in the PI fund for future projects, unexpected.
So that is a 10% contingency you're holding there this time.
I'll go back and look at the numbers. I know I saw 2 sets of numbers for Dave. He had one set that had a $100,000 contingency in it, and another that had a $200,000 contingency in it. But if it's the board's direction that we need to keep a 10% contingency in, then we're going to adjust the scope to make sure that we can keep a 10% contingency.
And then before it was usually 7. That's what was really a big seller too.
Yeah. And I would say that the other thing that we'll do is, as we start to define the scope and have a better understanding of what we're going to do, we'll get that number where it feels comfortable, right? If we go into the project, we say, you know what, we think we're okay with 5% because, again, we're doing a lot of interior finish work. We're not doing a lot of, busting up walls and we don't know what's behind, or hitting the ceilings and we don't know what's above. If it's a lot of finish work, the only places we're really preparing for some unexpected might be in those locker room areas or maybe a little bit in the auditorium. Maybe we can reduce that amount and still feel comfortable. I think that's something we definitely want to work on.
Typically furniture too is, it's what quality, where you're at there. So that's one of the things we take into consideration when you're developing it. So when you're looking at adding furniture, because, you can go from $100 piece to whatever.
Oh yeah, it's crazy.
Any other questions on phase 4? Great. So just the future phases. So Dan mentioned obviously phases 5, 6, and 7. Just want to give you a quick update. We've gotten started in the site master planning. I'm not really to the point where I've got a lot of information to share yet. It's mostly been gathering information. Dan and I walked through a series of questions to try and better understand what any of those phases might house, sort of number of classrooms, bus garage bays and those kinds of things. And we're trying to sort of narrow that scope in a little bit more so that we can start to develop programs for each of these different items and really understand the size of the facility or the improvement that we're looking at. And so right now, the site master planning that we're looking to proceed forward with, I don't have these in any order because I don't know how you want to proceed with 5, 6, and 7. I don't know what the priorities are. If, you know, the bus garage is the highest priority, or the field house / community center is the highest priority. So just sort of listing these future phases. But, you know, number one is the addition to this building to house the 7th and 8th grade students. So we're going to look at what an addition looks like onto this building, what that would entail in order to be able to move 7th and 8th grade successfully into this building, what types of spaces they need, what types of support spaces we need, and also what we can do to take advantage of where that's located to even accentuate this building. So if we are looking at an addition that might potentially, you know, extend out to the corner here, that might ultimately be a really popular showplace, you know, showpiece for the building. And so is there anything that we want to do to sort of accentuate that, to make it something really special? So we're looking at what that means and what the size of that will mean, and then also what the budget behind that will be. Bus garage, if we look at potentially moving the bus garage off of this site and looking at any of the other land that the district owns, I'll show you a couple ideas about where that potentially might land. And then the idea of the field house / community center. So those are sort of the 3 components that we're going to be investigating as we move forward. And right now I'm keeping an open mind. I'm not looking across the street and saying immediately that's got to be where the bus garage goes, but it may very well be the smartest place. I'm also not looking at the new property and saying that immediately that's where the field house goes, but again, it might be the smartest place. I think we need to keep an open mind as we work through the process. Yes.
And I just want to say, this is no means pointing to the end of a conversation. This is creating the beginning of the conversation. Because we can't even talk until we know what can go where. So we also discussed, you know, the ag facility that we need in the 7th and 8th grade edition be combined with the field house, and there be combinations of things. So really, we're just trying to find out what are our options. Then we can come back and, you know, do we need a 7th and 8th grade edition? What are the advantages? What are the disadvantages? Those are conversations yet to happen. But it's kind of frustrating, I think, for all of us to talk about what if when we don't even know where or if something's possible or not. So we're trying to pin down what our possibility is, and then we contracted with Josh for this service also on a not to exceed amount. And so we're just trying to get general information. So when we start our actual planning, what's next, what are our priorities? We know what can go where and what can't go where.
And ultimately, my goal is to bring to you different concepts that we can test together. Take a look at what fits in any area, what makes sense. You know, when you start thinking about the bus garage, you know, just thinking about the bus garage itself is one thing, but also thinking about all the parking that needs to go along with it. So we can park all the buses there. We can provide parking spaces for the bus drivers and all the things that have to happen over there. Does the fueling station go with the bus garage? All those different concepts. And so my goal is to come back to you and say, okay, here are a couple of different ways that this can work. And here's some rough budgets. You know, here's some range of costs of what we think it's going to cost for us to be able to think about any of these future improvements. And so as I proceed forward, what I'm really looking at is, you know, I've started to identify obviously the new property that you purchased. So we've got the 36.5 acres that's here across the street. That's in the green in the lower area here. And then obviously the new 132 acres that you guys purchased. So I've started obviously to think about where areas on those sites can be developed. You know, I think obviously as you drive past the new property, there's obviously a zone here that makes sense for development. Because we know that as we get up the hillside, you know, the costs for developing up the hillside are going to be more expensive. It's just, there's no ifs, ands, or buts about that. So as we start thinking about, you know, the potential of a new bus facility or a new field house facility that has an ag component, those kinds of things, we're also going to be thinking about the utilities, right? Because that factors into the cost. You know, we know that right now there's no sanitary, there's no public sanitary in this area, right? And so if we're thinking about how we're going to get a new facility over here, is there a possibility for us to talk to local jurisdictions and say, hey, you know, this facility, the way it's going to be used, it will never be used in conjunction with the high school being open at the same time. You know, if we've got athletes and they're traveling from the high school and they're going to this new field house for practice or for gym class or whatever, if there's not simultaneous use, could we potentially use it, put a pump station in and actually push to your wastewater treatment plant that we just put in. So that we're saving ourselves some money there and we're not duplicating utilities out at that new facility if it ends up here or if it ends up across the street. So those are some kind of questions that we're going to ask to see if we can understand exactly what the costs are going to be for utilities in any one of these places. But that's, like I said, that's sort of where we are in progress. I did want to drift back just for a second to talk about schedule. So August, September, we're going to be doing concept testing. So I'm hoping to come back to your September board meeting and have some more information for you and have some site plans to show and some different programs of these different improvements and what those are going to look like and what some preliminary budgets will be for those. And then my ultimate goal is that in the month of, I'm going to get some feedback from you in September, and then in the month of October, we'll be finalizing costs and recommendations so that before the end of the year, you have some good information, some good planning information. Any questions about any of that good stuff?
Just don't forget the ag program, that's going up through there.
Yes.
You still gotta have ground for that.
Yep. I don't think, if we looked at a new facility somewhere in this, we've got pretty good acreage there to develop. We ran some numbers, I think Dan and I did, and I think we're coming up with a facility that's like about 25,000 square feet, give or take. And so, that's about half the size of the high school. So if you start thinking about what that looks like out here, we've got plenty of area there. So that's what we're looking at. Anybody have any questions?
See what's bringing.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thanks, John.
Thank you.
Rusty, you guys good? Hey, thanks for everything, guys. Safe travels. Run while you can.
Thank you, appreciate it.
Thanks.
Thanks, guys.
Thank
Safe
you.
travels.
Thanks, John. Good job.
Thanks for all you're doing.
Thanks, Master.
Have a good evening, everyone.
Good job. Be careful.
Good job.
So, a couple things, I just wanted Justin and Chad, got a couple things, just wanted to share with them, share with you a couple back to school thoughts, and then just be here if there's any questions specifically about the high school or elementary, middle schools. Thanks for being here first.
Sure, we're basically gonna operate on a Dan would call an AB schedule. I'm probably gonna call it an odd even schedule. We're gonna go 4 periods a day, 4 transitions a day, and just do our odd periods one day, even the next. And that balances out. I think there's one more odd day than there is even days in the 9 weeks. And basically, we'll same amount of time in terms of class for the kids, teachers, it's just trying to limit the transitions. We also, Eric brought it up, and it's good. And we got 4 lunch groups now. No lunch group is bigger than 70. We got about 25 remote learners right now in the building. We're working on the 26th, having a remote learner orientation day so that they can come in. You probably saw the envelopes on the way down. Their device will be there. Anything from the teachers will be there. That way they don't feel like they got nothing. They'll be able to teach them to log into Google Classroom, Google Meet, and make sure their progress book logins up to date and correct, and they can get into that. But trying to be consistent that the grades are progress book, we communicate with Google Classroom and Google Meet, and then the school messenger system. And we're trying to limit it to that so that people don't feel like there's a million things happening to them.
So you said earlier in the meeting that you were meeting, and I said that
The remote people,
what happens if they don't have internet?
they don't have internet, so what we're planning to do now, when you record that meeting, or I don't know if we're recording this one or not, but when I recorded my meeting, basically it sends me an email, so they're filming their class, it sends me an email, we're gonna rename that, like, Bonnie Flynn, Art 1, Period 1, 9/8/20. So that remote, the person without internet that's maybe quarantined and just stuck, that we dealt with probably about that same 30-ish when we were in March, April. We're gonna be able to take that, download onto a flash drive and send that home on the bus too.
So there's 70%.
Pardon?
There's 70% present.
That'll be hard to know when they watch it, of course, so I mean, they'll be tracking their work. They'll be tracking their work. Now, attendance on that's a toughie, that's for sure. They're obviously gonna have their work, and if they're following along and getting their work in. Yeah, and also, the teacher may be the one going to, that has to work that way too. That's kind of the crux of the nuts and bolts of how we're gonna pull it off. All the teachers got their cameras, they've been working with those and kind of practicing. Got Mrs. Housley in here on camera because she's starting the year as Elena. Yeah, so we got, Kate's been coming to school and she actually said, if you don't put kids in front of me, I'm not coming. I said, don't put kids in front of you, Kate. That's not anything else you can think that we ought to address? And Eric's here too. I don't know if Dan was gonna go straight to that or not, but volleyball starts tomorrow and football's scrimmaging and that's the thing too.
The attendance question is this, we just have to think about attendance differently. We've had that very conversation 100 times. Like, we hope everybody is able to engage during their class time. However, we are not set up to really monitor your screen time or how many times you logged on. So basically then attendance becomes a completion of assignments activity. It's just one of those challenges that we can't do non-traditional things in traditional ways. That's going to have to be a workaround. It's going to have to be something that we kind of work through. Chad?
I had the same things at our open house. We're doing it by homeroom teacher or by their grade level teacher in K4. And their K3 obviously staying in there with their teacher all day. Fourth grade is on one of two teams, so they only rotate twice during the day. 5 through 8 will rotate. We're doing the same thing, kind of an A-B schedule where they'll see, but they will see language arts, math every day, alternate science and social studies, and their electives. But they're going to stay in the same cohort, even though, I had however many kids want to take white-tailed deer education. We weren't able to do that just and maintain our cohorts. So this year is more about they're going to get a taste of a little bit of everything in some aspects. We have, and to pull our schedule off to make it work, some classes are 6 weeks, some classes are 9 weeks. These are our electives. Some of them are 12 weeks based on shared staffing and when we need it, we may have a time during the day because we're trying to get, to still give us some flexibility. We may have 6th and 8th grade out of their class at the same time and using all of our related arts staff when we have Julie in the building, when we have Doug in the building and things like that. Let's see what else. The remote learning, they are spread out across the building. We've made contact, I think, with every family now, and I think we've got maybe 6 kids that say they needed a recorded lesson. The rest of them that feel like their internet's strong enough that they can watch the recorded lessons. It won't happen right away, but what those teachers, the Google Meet now has you break into small groups, and just because Kevin's just sitting at home and he's on his computer, well, let's put Trenda and Eric on their computers too. When we break into small group, they can partner with Eric at home and they can be in their own group. Eric, Kevin, and Trenda in their own group over here collaborating on the Chromebook, and we can engage that teacher or that student. The other advantage of that is instead of just putting them all in one place, everybody's going to get comfortable with doing remote learning for us. So that being said, that way that helps us balance some of our classes too. For classes like our STEM class, we're trying to create some tubs that we can send home with those kids to do some hands-on activities that that they're going to post some activities for them to follow along with. There'll still be some live lessons, but there'll be some things they can do at home. K3 is eating in the cafeteria, 4-8 is eating in the classrooms. Again, just it's either that or we'd have to start lunch at 8 o'clock. We'd probably have to end about 2 o'clock to get everybody through the cafeteria. But it'd be one grade level at a time, one grade level at a time on the playground. We've kind of got some bugs worked out, I think, where we're going to be able to have some middle school recess. But, it's at a commodity when you're trying to put one grade level out there. We used to do 2, sometimes 3 grade levels out there. But, there's still some more ifs we got to deal with, but we're getting there and we're pretty much ready to go. Our class lists have been fluid. And I understand families contact me and said, you know what, we've looked at it and, there's nobody in this class, and they used to be able to look at them and say, well, you get to see them at recess. Well, you're not necessarily going to get to see them at recess. We have been flexible there and trying to accommodate some kids so they're comfortable. But
How many is remote learning over there?
We have about 105 total district-wide today.
Yeah, and I think, are we about 80, Dave? I think we were at 81 or 82. And there's, like I said, there's 5 or 6 that have said we need recorded lessons, so. Some of them are what ifs. They're waiting to see how this goes for 3 weeks. And I think they will send them eventually. A lot of that too is the wait and see.
So under my discussion later, you have an updated enrollment, which includes current enrollment by grade level, pre-K through 12, enrollment by grade level a year ago, number of open enrolled in and open enrolled out by grade level, and also those by grade level that shows remote.
I would note what we've done here to get up to speed quickly is a testament to Philip, and also teachers within our own buildings are meeting each other. So they're really bringing.
The biggest challenge that we're faced with, that quite frankly, no one else is faced with because they chose to handle the remote learning differently. They are not set up for the face-to-face learner that needs to become remote tomorrow. And if you're not set up for that, you're putting yourself in a very precarious situation, both educationally and continuity of education and also financially. Because no third party is going to accept you and enroll you without at least a semester commitment. So like when we talk about things that have to be different, we're going to talk about the calendar and the need for PD. This is an absolute game changer. And it takes time and it's going to take ongoing. Quite frankly, we're doing some great PD right now, but when our real PD needs are going to come? After we have about 2 weeks of this under our belt. And somebody says, I need help. I don't know how to do X. Or I need a period of time that I can contact and work only with my remote learner. There's going to be, we can't even anticipate some of the needs yet because we haven't experienced it. It's been a great effort so far. We're getting more and more people that originally chose to, farm their kids out to another organization for remote learning are now thinking, what do I do in a quarantine situation? So now they're starting to pull back and rethink, and guess what? They've wasted a month of planning. And now they're really against the wall. So we just feel like we've used the word seamless. We have to be able to transition every kid from face-to-face, remote, and vice versa. So first meeting we have, here's a traditional way of thinking. If you sign up for remote, is there a minimal amount of time that you have to commit to? Seems logical. You're going to commit to remote, you're going to do it for a semester, 9 weeks. Well, the real reason to making a person commit, we were trying to turn them off of the idea and hold them here. if I make you come in for a semester, you're more likely to choose this. Well, quite honestly, some people are scared to send their kids. And then how do you justify holding someone out for 9 or 18 weeks when you choose face-to-face, but you have to be quarantined for 2 weeks? Can I not serve you? So we've all really arrived at the same thing. We need this to be seamless back and forth, and not just because of COVID, a traditional absence. I'm going to be out for a week. I broke my leg. I can't get around the building. The next day, I can log on from my home, and I became a remote learner. There's never a reason that I have to miss school now. So this is bigger than COVID. This could be a game changer for the future. Our people are embracing it, but we know there's going to be lots of things that we have to
So
do.
is there potential, just not because of all this, but for next year, snow days?
It should be over.
I mean, we shouldn't have any
Should be.
15 school days.
I'll tell you what should happen. Right now, we're contracted for 5, right now, we're contracted for 5 snow days.
Yeah.
There's no more limit on blizzard bags. Think about it, we used to worry about blizzard bags. We just went to school for 3. Yeah, those days should be, in my opinion, should be over.
Oh. It's
I'm
terrible.
more days in the summer.
Give them a few days.
No.
Well, they're getting 5.
Don't go on don't let off the gas. But, you know, and just to go along with that, like, we had a 4th grader, he, ended up on my basketball team in the youth league, but they came in this year, they had been going elsewhere, and I said, hey, we can't do what we did last year, and we're afraid that's what we're gonna get again when we close. We saw what you guys did, so we're back, you know. And I've heard that 2 or 3 times, you know, and that's some of the, I get Facebook messages, are you still taking open enrollment, we'd like to get in, you know, and it's just, you know, it's not just the opportunity, but it's the way we're trying to plan and do things. And it's not easy, and I think, just honestly, I think some people just throw their hands up and say this is the easy way.
So where are we at, Justin, as far as from this past year, the incompletes and all that? Did everybody finish everything?
No, not quite. We recovered 60, we're at 60 credits right now, recovered in some school, which is good. And then we also still have the window open because we got kids on credit recovery. That platform for that credit recovery class is open until August 28th, so I may pick up a few more. But it was definitely beneficial. Hopefully we don't end up back in that situation where, you know, we were flying to the seat of our pants, and I think some of them trying to disappear. If I'm not there, I'll do that.
Okay, any other questions?
We'll look over this enrollment so later.
Okay, Justin, Eric, you want to talk about the ever-changing landscaping of athletics?
Oh, where do we start?
At the
Can we
beginning.
start with the positives and say
Well,
what I
I'll tell you
think?
positively, Eric's worked really hard. It's been great, and it's still good.
What I can tell you is, first off, you guys should have firsthand experience with what our ticketing is going to kind of be like. All of you in your email as board members should have a pass for the ride. That pass is good for you and one other individual. Yep, all it is, and if you bring up your email on your phone, if you have the ability to do that, you can, or you can print. It's your option. It's going to be a pass that looks just like this on your phone. So you'll literally just walk through. You have one too, I said. You'll literally just walk by. Whoever is working at the gate will have a scanner that will just be on either a mobile device or an iPad. And from 6 feet or more, your ticket will be scanned. Once it's scanned, that ticket, well, yours is good for 2. I just, rather than send you 2 of them, I have the ability to count how many people it's good for. So yours, if you have one person with you, it'll scan twice, and that gets you and one person in with you. So once it's used twice, no one else can use that same pass.
That's it.
Yep, that's it. And literally, all you have to do is they just walk by, and I could, if Mr. Leffingwell is working at the gate, I would just walk by just like this, and say, yep, you're good, and then it's that simple. And that'll get to it, I'll just scan it twice, yep. So, it does a lot of things that benefit us. One, everything we're doing is completely online ticketing. There will be zero cash at the gate, which is therefore going to keep not only the people that are working the gate safer, it's actually going to keep you as the spectator who's coming in safer. There's zero contact at all. It allows you to purchase that ticket using a credit card, which in the future, we're still going to use the same method. There may be a cash option for people too, but with the situation with COVID, we thought it was best to just strictly be credit card, strictly do it online, and eliminate that hand-to-hand, person-to-person contact that we have with the traditional ticketing. It's allowing us to completely limit who is able to come into our stadium or into our gym. I'm bringing it up right now. I can tell you, as of this moment right now, we have sold 143 tickets for a total of 143, one more just went, for a total of $4,474. And that has been since,
Less than 24 hours.
yeah, it's not been very long.
She called me, what, 2 days ago or yesterday?
Yesterday.
Justin.
I know they're all
Wesley are
starting to blend
getting-
together, but it was yesterday.
So we can keep track of that completely. I can tell you that, I'll bring up our very first event, which is the junior high volleyball game. I'm able to bring it up from my device. Trina can also access it, Denise and some of the others. We can get other setup if we need them. Of the 50 tickets that are available for junior high volleyball for Buckeye Travel purchase, they bought 33 of them. So once 50 tickets are bought, it doesn't matter. They can't buy one more ticket. So therefore, we can control the number of people that come in so that we can limit our crowd sizes the way we need to. Our passes are also the same way. For those of you that have student athletes, I know guys kind of already experimented and done it a little bit. We have a unique code for each kid. You can't buy tickets unless you have that unique code. So therefore, we can ensure that the only people that are getting tickets are the people that are supposed to get tickets. For the visiting team, we're not going to every game look up every kid's name. So instead, what we did is we find out how many they have on their roster. We'll give it a unique code for that team specifically, and it can be used unlimited times, but it's going to cap them with the number of tickets that they can have per purchase. So it's going to allow us to control the capacity of our crowd. It's going to allow us to make sure that the people that we want to have in are the people that we actually are getting in. And to be honest, I truly believe this is probably a long-term trend of the direction that we need to be going.
There's no doubt. Because we started this last year in the state championship. In football, we had great success with it. Other sports were going online at the state level, and this was absolutely the trend that we wanted to go.
And I can tell you from what I've heard at the East District meeting that we had, and Dan can probably give more clarity with it than I can, that when it comes to our sectional, our district, our regional, and the state finals this year, and probably all sports, this may be the only way to purchase tickets.
Absolutely.
So the fact that we are doing it right now is actually going to give our people a little bit of an advantage because they're going to be familiar with it. But everyone else is scrambling around trying to figure out what they're supposed to do. We already know how to do it.
We're gonna already have our tickets bought.
What's that?
We're already gonna have our tickets bought.
I actually have already reached out and asked, is there a way, obviously the funds are gonna go to the OHS or the East District, but I've already reached out and said, can we just embed that sales into our site so we can get it to our people easier?
And so the first thing that comes to mind is, well, so-and-so doesn't have the internet. Well, likely, they come here to buy their ticket. So now you buy it on an iPad, right here at our site. So depositing of funds, all the transfer of that is.
So
You
that's
can
what's already
imagine the
been-
manpower that this change, I mean, it changes the entire dynamic of the physical collection of money, the physical depositing of money, it's just,
The risk for everyone involved is significantly decreased too, not even to do with COVID. There's a situation with another local school district where there was funds that whether honestly or dishonestly didn't end up where they were supposed to be. This helps alleviate and eliminate the chance that happens. So is that what already has been deposited? So we've
It
actually
hasn't
sold more than.
actually been deposited into our bank account. They said because it's our first time, it would take 7 days the first time, but then after that, it'll take 2 days. But, I mean, they're still accounting for it and giving us a report. It just hasn't been physically deposited yet, but it will be soon. So,
Is this what comes up in email as Stripe? Is
Stripe,
that
yes.
what this is?
Mhm.
There's a reason I don't have mine. That looks fishy.
I invited-
I'm on over. You're out.
Well, from what I was told by Hometown Ticketing, and they provided some documentation, that Stripe is actually the credit card processor for more internet sales than any other company in the world.
That's what all me and asked me about my strike purchase last day.
So this is going to be a game changer. This is going to make it fantastic. It's going to provide a lot of opportunity. And even going forward, one of the things that, this is not the year for it, but it's going to change our reserve seating too. They can create a map of our facility so that when people purchase a ticket, they can choose their seat. So
You'll be really good, Eric, when you can make this ticket work for Belford next Friday.
we're starting with the positive. Another positive is Caleb Graham is doing live streaming for us. We have a little bit of a cost that's associated with it, so we've reached out to local businesses, provided opportunities for some sponsorship for our seniors especially, but other student athletes as well, and band members, where they can create a sponsorship, which we don't want to rape and pillage our small business owners, especially in the community, because they've probably been hurt by COVID more than anybody else. But this could be a truly great opportunity for them, because we host the Caldwell game this year in football. If we can only have this limited number of people here, how many eyes are going to be on the live stream? So it truly is a really good advertising opportunity for some of these companies. So we've actually we haven't got the cash in or the check in from everybody, but we have commitments to the level of $8,400 right now, which is enough to pay for all of our fall live streaming and probably nearing half of our winter live streaming if we still have to do this in the winter time, which is more than likely the case. And we've actually, while we were doing the Q&A, I got a call from Caleb, who was doing our live streaming. We actually had the first person already purchase it for the volleyball game for tomorrow night. So every volleyball game and every football game at the varsity level, and the JV with volleyball as well, is going to be live streamed and is available for those people that can't come.
It's what, $20 a game?
It's $20 a game, yeah. Which we're not anticipating one person to order for $20. What I can tell you in my case is my grandpa has zero ability to use a computer. He can barely use a regular rotary phone. He's not going to live stream it. He's going to go to my dad's house, and my dad's wife is going to be there, and his brother's going to be there, and maybe my brother's going to come over, and all of a sudden we're going to have 10 people at a house having a watch party.
Well, that's all you can have.
What's that? That's all you're allowed to have, and they have to leave at 10 p.m. There's actually going to be some of these local businesses are also partnering to the point where they're going to live stream the games as well, like some of the restaurant businesses.
Oh, neat.
So
Yeah,
you're going to
that's
be able to go to those places and watch the game.
You go to the bar.
The negative with the athletics.
First sponsor.
The negative with the athletics is we are going to have to limit who can come in. People aren't always going to like it. I can tell you when we travel to Belfry next Friday night, we get 120 tickets total.
And the band doesn't travel.
And the band doesn't travel. So I can tell you for football and cheer, that's going to work out to 2 tickets per kid and 8 tickets left over. And I'm probably going to use those 8 tickets for coaches and staff members and help out and stuff, just because we have 11 seniors. I can't even say, here's the seniors, give them the extra tickets because I'm leaving 3 of them out.
We buy those tickets from you? Or how do we get those tickets?
I am going to reach out through the coaches. They're going to mail us vouchers. So put them in the mail today. If you don't have the voucher in hand, and this may be the way a lot of places do it, you can't purchase the ticket. So when I get these vouchers, I'm not giving them to the kids, because the reality is we may have some kids that don't go, and I don't want to give them to Justin. Justin loses them. Now we're out vouchers. Justin's parents aren't going, and he doesn't bring them back and give them to me. So I'm gonna hold on to the vouchers, and the parents are gonna have to come get them directly. So that if there are some left over, that's not just 8, maybe we can reallocate them and get as many of our fans to be able to go as possible. But I don't wanna get to the point where, all right, we got 4 tickets, but everybody draw straws.
I just did that because I'm not mentioning Patrick will travel with the girl.
Yeah, so
Where do
we're,
you get, who do you get them from? You pay there?
yeah, you'll just take the voucher with you for this case, and you can't purchase a ticket there unless you have a voucher. I think a lot of places probably will do something similar to that.
We're gonna talk about procedures for home visitors, entry.
Actually, just saw recently, Jeff shared it with me, Buckeye Local's even limiting, and we may look at it, they're even limiting what fans can come at what time. So, all the senior parents come at this time. All the junior parents come at this time.
That's overkill.
Gotcha, well, then we won't look at that, but,
Take that off your worry about.
yeah. So,
Let them come in.
So we're gonna use signage around, and we're gonna follow all these policies which are in place, which are gonna require people to wear masks. I'm gonna get further guidance on it, but one person tells you all the time, another person tells you that when they get their family pod, they can take them off. So, and that's from our own health department, so I'm gonna get further clarity, but masks are gonna be required. We're gonna have to require people to be in separate pods, or you're staying with your own family group. We're going to separate the crowds as much as possible. So in our gym, all of our home crowd is going to be on one side, all of the visiting crowd is going to be on the other. And we also have to try to the best we can separate concessions. Out with football, we're going to bring in bleachers from the baseball field, from the softball fields. We're going to put them on the visiting side, and the visitors are going to come into the elementary school. We're going to have portable toilets for them over there. We're going to have a concession over there. We're gonna have some bleachers and also tell them to bring lawn chairs because there may not be a lot of seating and they won't be allowed on our side. And our people won't be allowed on their side. With volleyball, we don't have 2 concession stands and it's inside. So the health department has said that we can put up some plexiglass and clearly mark this side is for Shenandoah only. This side is for the visiting team.
I mean,
What's that?
What's the reason for that?
Because they don't,
Don't want the people.
if we have to get to the point where we're contact tracing,
Yeah.
they don't want to have to intermix them all. And the one thing that is really, really nice with doing the hometown ticketing is when you purchase a ticket, or when a pass is scanned, I can look at that report and say, every person that came into the game. Now, Constance, maybe she doesn't come to the game, and instead Justin and his brother come. But we're gonna reach out to Constance, and she's gonna say, no, I didn't come, they came instead. So now we know who's at the game.
Yeah.
So using the hometown ticketing is gonna allow us to know exactly who's at the game. We are also going to have to appoint a compliance officer, which is gonna be Justin Venus.
Attaboy. Woo!
He's a DJ too, he's got a busy night.
Which their job is essentially going to be to make sure people are wearing masks when they're supposed to be, to make sure that people are staying socially distant, and they're probably going to be the least popular person on a Friday night there.
And there's also 100 paid inspectors throughout the state.
There's what?
100 paid inspectors throughout the state. I could be one of them. I choose not.
Undercover?
Yes,
Undercover?
essentially, yes.
Well, they're not gonna be too undercover, but they're gonna have to secure access to get
Is
in.
it possible, although, I mean, because you see the tension naturally that will be with
Well-
that person policing, can't we just assign that to the officer? I mean, we're paying.
We're gonna ask for support, more than likely that compliance person will be probably Justin and I. Here is how that's gonna work, I'm gonna ask you nicely to do what you're supposed to do.
That's terrible.
If you don't do what you're supposed to do, one, I'm holding the game, I'm gonna tell everybody that's there, we're not playing the game until this individual leaves. And then I'm gonna have law enforcement rules.
Yeah.
I'm not getting.
That'd be so embarrassing.
Can we get to announce that, that'll be fun.
So if people are doing what they're supposed to do, law enforcement's gonna take care of it. I'm not fighting someone to make them put their mask on. I'm gonna ask them nicely the first time, and if they don't do it the second time, they're going to leave, whether they like it or not. So it's unfortunate, and the reality is it's not that we're trying to be, we as in, not us individually, but the health department and the OHSA and the governor's office, we're not trying to restrict people. We're trying to make sure that we can play this game. Yesterday, I went and spoke to our junior high football team, and they're all too close together, and none of them wear masks all the time, we're like, we're protecting you from you. Because one, it's not only the risk of the virus, but the other thing is if one of you tests positive and you're all in direct contact with each other, we have to cancel football for 2 weeks. Whereas if we can do some of these things right, we can now move on. And yeah, we don't want one of you or two of you to not be with us, but it's better for that to happen than you come back in 2 weeks and we still have a team.
But play the game, play the game.
So it's probably not going to be well received at the time because I don't think that everyone in our community views this as a perceived threat the way that it probably is.
So as you can see, as you're processing all that, there has literally been 10,000 plus details to work through and
And we got these guidelines at 5 p.m. yesterday.
Good job, Eric. Good job. Thank you.
Yeah, that's good.
any other questions, athletic, ticketing, anything?
Yeah, the away games, like Belfry, are they live streaming that
She didn't know the time.
See, what I mean,
or Town's just doing our home games, right?
Yes, because the host school owns the rights to the game.
But you don't know if they,
As of 10 a.m. this morning, the last time I talked to her, it still was up in the air.
Now, if they live stream, do we have to buy from them? Makes sense.
And there's a ton of different, I can tell you that I think that there's another group that's doing some live streaming. They're doing Coldwell and Fort Fry. I think the gig and the deal we got with Caleb is far superior to what they have.
yeah, I heard they're paying seven.
they're only doing football.
They're really doing football.
Yeah, no matter, I know Meadowbrook's in the, they not sure about that. Hey, they not still there?
And I can tell you that Storied Rivals,
I'll pay fine and avoid the Title IX issue.
Storied Rivals is with the MBL schools. They have a deal where they keep 100% of advertising and they get one half of the ticket sales. So I feel like we got a pretty good gig.
Fantastic.
We had to work really hard to secure some sponsorships and Morgan Venus has done a huge part of that, but we're able to pay for all of ours and we're not losing money. We're for sure going to be in the black. I don't know how much we're going to make on it, but we're not losing it.
The High School Athletic Association gave up a significant amount of sponsorship revenue from Spectrum to give up these rights. I mean, it was a huge amount of money.
So this is the same guy that did our graduation and everything.
And I think this could be, if the OHSA still allows it, and Dan probably knows that better than I do, this could be the trend of the future, because the reality, we were supposed to play Burn Union here. We very well could get, for the distance of the trip, even when COVID wasn't going on, we could probably get more viewership and funds from them from live streaming than they're driving through.
Yep. $20, hell, you'd have that one way in gas. I mean,
And then you'd spend twice that in concession stand.
yeah.
Pretty soon we'll be playing the games virtually.
Oh, jeez.
There's esports.
I mean, the way it's going, yeah. Esports will be bigger than
Well, it's not a great idea to only do one sport.
yeah.
We actually would entertain the idea of cross country, but just, it would be impossible to watch cross country.
Yeah. Unless you have a very well versed drone operator, that would be sweet.
That would be cool.
That would be sweet.
That's a good
That's not, I'm not your person. But that, it's
So
doable.
that's a challenge for Caleb.
We have a drone, we use it doing games, we make, I don't know.
That takes a very well, you could, with drone, there's technology where you could probably map the cross-country course and it could run it. But you'd have to stop and switch batteries because the life of batteries.
Yeah, 20 minutes.
Yeah.
If it's windy, it's less.
Yeah.
Phil's on here, RoboLoco, the software and the online virtual drones we're looking at actually has that where the kids go in and you give them a course and say, I need you to set up a plot of course for this drone to fly it. That could be one of our PBLs for STEM class.
Yeah.
Let's get this
That's
done.
good collaboration,
My
right?
drone, you can plot it and it'll come back to me when I lose it, but. I
All right, anybody got any questions for any of these guys? You down there?
Yes.
Yeah.
Keep up the good work.
Yeah, great. Great work. I can promise you one thing, it'll change again.
About 10 minutes.
Yeah. All right, moving on. Trenda?
We have the minutes of our last board meeting. My screen is not catching up.
Mine hasn't been either, I don't know why.
Yeah.
I
Okay.
logged out, logged back in.
Any questions, comments? Motion?
Motion.
Archer, second?
Second.
Scottsburg.
Archer,
Yes.
Stottsbury,
Yes.
Carpenter,
Yes.
McElroy,
Yes.
McKee.
Yes.
I have some financial reports attached for your review. They include the financial report for July. They also include our disbursement summary for July. I think there was 3 pages this time. July's always a big month because we had to do cutoffs early in June so we could prep for fiscal year closeout. And then in July, you gotta hurry up and get caught back up again, so.
Yeah.
You see, that's a big number there. I have an estimated receipts, modification for you also attached there. We approved our first certificate back in, at the July meeting, at the July 16th meeting. And so I'm just tweaking this for a couple of our grants. And then also our scholarship fund and the agency funds there, that $4,000. And then the student activity funds, we've got all of the budgets turned in from those 200 accounts, those student activity funds. So that brings them up to current on estimated receipts. Now remember, this is the revenue side, not the appropriations, which we're going to talk about separately on another resolution.
So does this include the field trip?
This includes the revenue side of that field trip. Are you talking about the refund?
We can't, yeah, that'll be on the.
Yeah, so what's happening, I can give you an update later on that.
Yeah.
But, so when the company issues the refunds back to us, that's a revenue to us. It'll show up as a receipt. So they give the money back to us.
Yeah.
That's this side of it.
Okay.
And then on the appropriation side is where we would turn around and disperse that back out. Does that make sense?
Oh, yeah.
And then, if you remember last month, I didn't have your cafeteria reports for you, so I hurried up and attached June just a little bit ago so I'm sorry about that. I did forget until Kevin and I were walking down the hallway and he was talking about the cafeteria report. So we're getting caught up on cafeteria. But, this is our June activity. And then the other one is the July activity.
Any questions? Motion?
Motion.
Carpenter, second?
McElroy.
I don't know why that says Mr. Fowler. Okay, sorry, I got confused there for a second. Carpenter?
Yeah,
Who was the second?
Lori.
Lori. Okay, McElroy? Archer?
Yes.
Stottsbury?
Yes.
McKee?
Yes.
All right, and I have a list of federal programs for your approval. So a few of these you've seen before, and a few of these you have not seen. Title I, the same. Title IIA, the same. Title IV-A, we did have last year. IDEA, special ed, you had last year. Early childhood special education, that's the preschool part. So you have seen that before, and it actually goes through the ESC. So you don't see revenue and expense for that until the very end. It's called pass-through grant money, but expanding opportunities for each child non-competitive grant is new. And the last time I looked on the CCIP right before I came up to the board meeting, it's just shy of $4,000. So I'm probably not going to go very far, but better than zero, which is what we've had in the past. High schools that work, you've seen that before. The CRF money, coronavirus relief funds. I sent a lengthy email detailing everything about these grants. So just to refresh your memory, this is the one that is approximately $60,000, and it will have a early deadline, which is December 31st. So they're encouraging us to use that money first. And so there's that one. And then there's the ESSER, which is the other CARES Act money. And that one is not limited to, having to be FER'd and finalized by December 31st. It will extend through a regular grant
How
year.
much did you get for that?
158,000, something.
So Trina, will that attempt to cover the extra cost that we have?
It'll help. We're still trying to assess what the full costs are because, as you know, we've spent more on the food service. We've spent more on chemicals. We've spent more on, it's just labor. We've spent more on, we've saved money by making our own, what do I call the masks, stand, plastic?
Face shields.
Face shields. But then we have to pay those people who spent all those hours and hours here, So there's labor and benefits involved, and
It's probably a hard number to even.
yeah,
Well, it won't be. I mean, it's gonna come pretty clear, pretty quick. We're still finalizing a lot of things. I mean.
we were just talking today about
Yeah,
some
we're
equipment that's needed.
We're buying 2 automatic floor machines. We'd need to replace those anyway. We have this kind of assistance to help us, and that frees up a number of hours that other types of cleaning can be done. So this was the right time to do that. That would be one example. Mike Leggett and Jarvis is on here under personnel for additional extended service days. They've already exhausted the ones that we gave them originally. But still yet, the return on that investment was still significantly cheaper than buying from another vendor. So we'll be able to track it and give you an actual number. We're just not there yet.
And then we're still investigating some things like these air purifying systems. I know Constance has done some research on.
So the air purification, while we're on it, we actually talked about all 3 of those options at the last construction meeting. And folks here who stand to gain from that, as well as Jim said, we actually have an issue with our new HVAC of nearing almost too much outside air and fresh air. So they were telling us that they did not think it was worth our investment.
And then there were 3 different options too, and of the 3, there was better, medium, and excellent, and
If we had to go to one of those 3 options, quite frankly, we would go to the best with electronic air filter.
so back to grants. There's also you have not seen the agriculture education 5th quarter grant before. That's new. We were originally in high hopes of about $12,000 for that, but after our consultant review, I noticed yesterday they've reduced that down to $6,000. So I don't know if we need to do some more research on why that reduction happened, but again, 6,000 is better than 0. But and then the school bus purchase program again was around 4,000, just a little over 4,300, I think it was. Not a lot, but better than 0, which we didn't have anything in the past.
Any questions? Motion.
Yeah.
Stotsberry, second. Second. Carpenter.
Stoutsbury,
Yes.
Carpenter,
Yes.
Archer,
Yes.
McElroy,
Yes.
McKee.
Yes.
Now for our permanent appropriations. And if I can get that open. So if you remember back in June? At the June 18th meeting, we passed temporary appropriations, and I talked about the fact that that was 50%, and that would get us get us through and get us started. And I would come back to you with permanent appropriations later, hopefully after we received our settlement from our second half property tax settlement. And we did. We've received our Noble County settlement and our Guernsey County settlement. We have not received our Monroe County settlement yet, but that will be forthcoming. But that being said, we are passing permanent appropriations a little bit earlier than we have in the past. Sometimes we've had to wait till September to do that, but we're ready. And so I feel very confident that our forecast numbers are still good. No major modifications there. And that I see that grant, I said 158,000 on something on that ESERS grant. It's 157, but it's very close. So
Questions? Motion? Stotsberry, second. Lori?
Stoutsbury,
Yes.
McElroy,
Yes.
Archer,
Yes.
Carpenter.
Yes.
McKee.
Yes.
And then I have a list of donations here. That's also kind of a leftover from last meeting. We had to pull that off of the agenda at the last minute.
He was green.
I believe that's that Graham production. I don't know his first name.
Caleb?
Caleb?
He's first class. Great.
Motion?
Motion.
Archer, second. Stotsberry?
Archer?
Yes.
Stoutsbury?
Yes.
Carpenter?
Yes.
McElroy?
Yes.
McKee.
Yes. All right. Superintendent's report.
Okay, item 4.1 is personnel issues. You see that we have a new recommendation for a new driver. I'll also tell you, you see additional extended service days, Jarvis and Mike, and the number's not there, that we were looking for a number of 25 each. Well, yeah, the idea, the reason that the 25 is there, they were granted 20, they've used 25. So that's where we are, but now we're back on the clock, so
So they have access.
they should be good because, yeah, there'll be 45 for this year. That's not, the normal number is going to be 20.
Right.
This is only COVID related. And quite frankly, we don't know what robotics competitions are gonna look like or how much travel will be or not be allowed. We don't know, but, the service that those guys have provided along with Philip and all the people that's worked back there in the lab's been unbelievable. So, there's the personnel matters.
Motion,
Motion.
Archer, second?
Motion.
I couldn't tell who said what.
Yep, second.
All right,
I will.
Lori's first, Constance
Oh,
second.
sorry, I got it backwards. I thought it was the other way. Okay.
Can't tell me.
Yeah, and the smile, I can't even see that.
McElroy,
Yes.
Archer,
Yes.
Carpenter,
Abstain.
Stotsberry,
Yeah.
McKee.
Yes.
Yeah, item 4.2 is several business matters to look into, most of which are very customary, including the bus routes and program for after-school detention.
I have a question.
Uh-huh.
Since our times are changing for start and end time, will parents know or pickup times, and then drop-off times?
Yep. Our drivers will be contacting them.
Okay.
Each of their families.
Okay.
We're really close to that already. We'll probably finalize that at the beginning of next week. One of the issues that's been delayed there is just trying to figure out if we're gonna do anything drastically different with grouping the kids, et cetera. After meeting this week, we just decided it wasn't necessary. The face mask policy does indicate the change for those students under second grade, and it does reflect the newest Ohio Department of Health order. And then we also have a shared services agreement for our transportation arrangement with kids traveling to Mideast, along with Cambridge and East Guernsey. That shared services agreement is regards to the money that Mideast helps us with.
I know this doesn't really pertain to that, but I see Middle East there. Where we at on the welding thing? We still got open spots for that?
At Mideast,
Yeah.
I'm not sure about Mideast. I'm really not. We can find out.
I'm just curious. I mean, we're guaranteed so many spots.
Then, yep. Now, what typically happens at registration time, I mean, that tends not open beyond the registration period. So if they have 20 spots and we only have 4 that originally applied, they may give those 16 away,
Oh, right.
right? I mean, but yeah, we are still guaranteed 10. That's at Buffalo.
All right, motion. Stotsberry, second. Lori?
Stotsberry,
Yeah.
McElroy,
Yes.
Archer,
Yes.
Carpenter,
Yes.
McKee.
Yes.
Item 4.3 is a memorandum of understanding between us and our Certified Teachers Association. And it really just addresses the remote learning portion, the recording of such. And we actually mentioned this because the larger union groups were absolutely opposed to this for a whole variety of reasons. But this memorandum basically, we understand our folks are going in uncharted territory. we did not want there to be any hesitation that we were gonna use any mishaps or mistakes, as a cause for evaluative purposes. So this is the one memorandum that we came up with, just to reassure them that our main priority is to educate kids and have a continuation of services. We really felt like to increase that comfort level and that jump off, so to speak, that we needed to have this in place.
Motion. Lori, second. Archer.
McElroy,
Yes.
Archer.
Yes.
Carpenter.
Yes.
Stoutsbury.
Yes.
McKee.
Yes.
Item 4.4 is approving payment in lieu of transportation for 5 different situations as listed there. And realizing this is one of Kevin's favorite areas, realizing that this is situations where this payment is more cost effective than it is providing transportation on our end. You say what you say, and I always have to say what I say.
what I say, I get paid to say what I say.
Me too.
How about now?
I'm trying to get caught up.
Motion.
Let's take pause. My system is blinking.
Thought for a motion.
No, I did not.
The internet's connected.
Yeah.
Try closing some stuff.
We got Bill's picture up there.
That must have been when he graduated.
Yeah. He ain't near as gray in that picture, Bill. What happened?
Should I completely? I'm gonna go back out to the Google Calendar and try to reconnect.
Go ahead and do the website now, screen. Oh, that's right. Where are we? Give us commercial breakdown.
Workouts isn't responding. Okay, I'll keep notes. Sorry, transportation 4.4.
Motion.
Motion.
McElroy, second. Yeah. Archer, I don't know. Them two is first and second.
Okay, McElroy,
Yes.
Archer,
Yes.
Carpenter,
Yes.
Stottsberry, are you abstaining or no? No? Okay.
Oh, come on, think about it.
McKee,
Yes.
Okay, item 4.5 would be our authorization to proceed and continue with the design criteria development, et cetera, for phase 4 at a price not to exceed $2 million.
Motion. Carpenter, second. Stottsbury.
Carpenter,
Yes.
Stottsberry,
Yes.
Archer,
Yes.
McElroy,
Yes.
McKee.
Yes.
Item 4.6, we've discussed, we've adjusted it several times. I thought it would be appropriate to ask for the board's approval of our reset and restart plan for the school year. And that entire plan is also listed in the magazine that's going out, mailed out today. By the way, you did a great job, Jeff.
Yes.
That's good.
Awesome. Motion.
Yes.
Stottsbury, second.
Second.
Carpenter.
Stottsberry,
Yes.
Carpenter.
Yes.
Archer,
Yes.
McElroy,
Yes.
McKee.
Yes.
Okay, item 4.7 is a revised school calendar, and apparently there was some miscommunication on my part. So when this went out publicly, some people suggested that they were maybe not aware specifically. So we delayed our start until September 8th. There were some concerns about our number of 2-hour delays, which were monthly, coinciding with our board meeting Thursdays. And for obvious reasons, you know, we really felt like those were needed this year just because the drastic amount of training and support that we need ongoing, as I mentioned earlier tonight, not the fact that we can prepare everybody in 2 weeks and then there's not going to be any calls to revisit. I've had one parent reach out to me concerned about the hardship that this would create for their childcare. Obviously, we understand it's an inconvenience, and that's why going into year number 8, if you remember, the first thing I did was get rid of all the early dismissals that we used to have for various reasons, because we realized it's a hardship. So our attempt with this recommendation was to balance with our ability to bring kids back to school 5 days a week rather than a blended approach, and then continue to support our staff who's serving both remote face-to-face learners. It was mentioned that there could be a compromise. I wanted to present as recommended. If you guys would like to talk about an alternative, we can have that discussion prior to asking for a motion.
I have some things that I would like to bring up, or some questions. So I guess I should first say that I completely understand that teachers need to collaborate with one another. I do. But like I said before, can we not compromise some way so we can get the teachers what they need, but also not facing hardships on our families? I mean, I know I live it as far as, am I going to with my kids? And I think another thing we need to think about is our open enroll kids. How are they going to get the bus stop if their parents are at work?
Oh, there's no question. It's a hardship for everybody. I mean, I don't, that's what, this idea has been brought up for various reasons. A lot of districts have done this for years. We got rid of all this stuff. You know, for you that were on the board earlier, we used to do early dismissals prior to every parent-teacher conference and every holiday and all. And we said it's an inconvenience for families. So I get that. The one compromise area about rotating is we can't come up with another plan that's dependent upon substitute teachers, because that pool is smaller than ever. And so we're willing to entertain anything, but at the same time,
Could we use admin who aren't busy or aides who aren't needed in certain times? If we do rotate the times of meetings?
I guess just standing back and looking at the calendar, it looks like a lot of the 2-hour delays are a lot.
Yeah, there's 8 of them.
Yeah.
There's one a month.
Have we taken a poll of the teachers? I mean, do they feel like this is something that's crucial?
It was part of the discussion, absolutely.
Part of what discussion?
I mean, you remember, we first discussed, we actually last discussed it in May.
Yeah.
We revisited in June. So it's been vetted by a number of folks. I'm not telling you, we want to take them out, we'll take them out. I'm sitting here to tell you, I think we're pretty creative. And before we came up with this recommendation, we flushed a lot of ideas and opportunities. I've been adamantly opposed to any dismissal or any delay that wasn't necessary. So I get the inconvenience. I guess where I would suggest a little understanding on the other part is, we've also one of the few people around that are returning to school 5 days a week because of that very reason. And we're accommodating both remote and face-to-face learners to a degree that no one else is. So with that, I felt like this is not time off for staff. I want to be able to support all those people with the time that I think is going to be necessary.
I don't think anybody thought it was going to be time off for teachers. I just think that it's been very hard for everyone. I mean, I was furloughed for a month. I went to work this day, I didn't go to work this day. So a more consistent schedule for our kids is just something that I was hoping I would like.
Is there a way we can bring the kids in? I know it would be at an added cost, but still give the teachers a 2-hour.
But none of the teachers, I mean, they were fine with it.
They were fine with blood classes. Oh, the teachers.
You know, I think we could take September off.
I mean, even if we limited it to like once in 9 weeks, I mean, that's a lot better than every third Thursday. I mean, I think that's a lot more doable.
Okay, so, and I'm not arguing, I just want to present what the months of discussion we've had. 9 weeks would be fantastic. But I'm getting ready to start something in which I've never done. If I need support, I likely can't wait 9 weeks to get it.
Then you're gonna be in trouble with the people gonna be complaining because I can't.
I don't like,
do this, or I can't get any.
there's nobody questioning this more than I am. This goes against everything I like to do. But also I'm being dealt with a situation in trying to support people in doing something that they've never been trained to do.
And just because we're doing it this year, doesn't mean we're gonna keep it.
No, and again, I don't know if we take September out, because we're just in school for a week.
Yeah, but that's all gonna be new.
Well, I
that's
mean, the
gonna
reason
be-
that we had September in there was for that
I
very reason. We get 8 or 9 days under our belt.
Yeah, then we're gonna have a whole new set of challenges. What about the 17th of December? Because we have a
We
teacher
got-
work day on the 23rd.
Definitely take that one out. That was gonna be my next
That's
one.
I mean,
No,
it's,
keep going, keep going. I mean, no, that's good.
but I think the 17th is crucial in September because we're all gonna be back.
You gotta regroup.
Yeah. But if we could eliminate December 17th, because we're gonna have a teacher work day. And then we have a professional development day, which those are very, very busy, so you don't really. I mean, what's the agenda look like on your teacher professional development days versus what you foresee happening in the 2-hour
They're
delays?
all different. And if we have, I'm looking too, if we have a 2-hour delay that's close to a professional development day, we would not need folks.
Well, January 21st, but it's not close to the 4th. There's a
Oh.
teacher PD on the 12th, and then there's a 2-hour delay on the 18th of February.
Take the February 18th out. Take the December
17th,
Take
yeah.
the December 17th out.
So right there on the 12th and 18th, is it feasible? It's a teacher workday on a Friday, the following Thursday would be a 2-hour delay.
We would not need both those.
That'd be February 18th. Take it out, right?
And I do not need March 12th and 18th, so we take the March 18th out.
I mean,
So let's start at the top. We're taking out,
December 17th,
Yep.
The one for September.
and then we would take out February 18th,
Yep.
So you have this January.
Yep,
and then March 18th.
that March 18th.
We're leaving January 21st.
And we might circle back and say, after you have a couple of these 2-hour delays, guys, we need this. This is critical. This is something that we need, and we plan it in next year.
I have no reservations about these dates that are posted to a PD date whatsoever. I don't, because that's gonna be a priority. No, there's no issues with that at all.
I think that would help out our parents.
So right now, we've taken out 3, December 17th, February 18th, and March 18th, correct?
Yeah.
Am I missing any others?
I got a question about this
Yeah.
process too. Is there another way we can utilize that time back in Asheville? Like, bringing the kids in, do the virtual learning, say we're going to put the cafeterias and things, where you're gonna spread the kids out. When the kids are here, the teachers still have their time, and they still
Well,
have.
so we talked about folks that have childcare issues that bring their kids to school, we can get into the fact what you do with your busing.
That's
Say that
what I-
again, I can't hear you.
Yeah, well, I mean, part of that issue was we still have to run busing. If I'm understanding, like I could say, if you absolutely have to have childcare, we can have means for you to bring your kid in. But a lot of those very people also depend on busing, and I can't run busing 2 different times.
No, I'm not saying that, I'm saying bring all the kids here. And you may have to really look at this hard, but, some of the new areas we want to have a lesson that's already, been put together by the teachers before, whatever, for 2 hours. Teachers still get their, 2 hours that they need. You'd have some extra cost in your bringing subs in. It'd be just a bigger crowd, like you have the 4th grade here.
Well, the crowd becomes an issue.
Right, if you
breaking
get
up
your
the
separation.
Yeah, breaking up the pods become an issue, sub-coverage becomes an issue. Then we talk about, well, we can use some of our aides in that capacity. Well, then, most of them are assigned to an individual kid.
I'm just looking at some things,
No,
outside.
On a normal year, that would probably work.
Yeah,
Hey, listen,
yeah, that's
There's
right.
nothing normal about this year.
no one's hurting my feelings. Like,
Yeah.
I've never wanted to do this for all those reasons. Matter of fact, I'll just tell you, the closest I ever came to having some issues was when I took away all the early dismissals. But I said, we're not getting anything for it. And we're creating a huge inconvenience for it. I mean, it takes a true flood for me to dismiss school early. Because an early dismissal is even worse than a late arrival for parents, most people. So that takes us down to 5.
I just think this is a hard year because kids are
Well,
grandparents and.
Well, and I'm just gonna say this, because I had this conversation with the one parent, I get it, and it's also an extremely difficult year for us. And I will also tell you that even though people can say they understand, they still expect a service delivery that we were not initially ever trained to do. So oftentimes the very people that are adamantly opposed to this are also the ones that expect a different level of service academically and wonder why we can't make it out. And, you know, today, I get it. No one has to call me to tell me that this is an inconvenience. I've heard from one.
Yeah, well, I mean, to be fair, we really haven't publicized the bill either.
Any more thoughts?
We've taken 3 out. Do you want to take a look again?
No, I mean, the only other one I see opportunity is in January, but that's really, you know, that's 2 weeks away from your last teacher in service, so. January 4th through the 20, and then you look at the 21st is a 2 hour. That week's gonna be a hard week just because they're off on Monday.
Which week, Justice?
January 18th, we're off observing the MLK Day, and then just a couple days later, the 2 hour delay.
Then let's take that one out.
We do have a teacher in service on the 4th.
Well, I tell you why I'm okay taking that January date out. There's great likelihood there's going to be a whole number of 2 hour delays. And there might be the opportunity during one of those, I can still get
That
staff
is a
in.
great idea.
And what about April? You're coming toward the end of the year. Is that something, is that closeout more of a closeout, or by then we should have it?
What about October? Since we have one in September? Or is it too much too much?
I think September and October is critical.
Yeah. I think they need to stay.
So here's all the
They have to put their big boy pants on and just have to stay home.
Well, here's the scenarios that we're trying to prepare for. Today we have 105 remote learners. What's that look like in October? And if you were guessing right now, do you think that number becomes greater or does it become less?
Well, you hope it becomes less,
You hope.
it could be 800.
Yeah, you know.
So what are we down to? 4? So that's basically once every 9 weeks, right?
Yeah, what was that January date? I'm having trouble seeing.
January
21st.
1st.
So we started with 8, we're down to 4.
I think that's one.
Motion as written.
I'm comfortable with it. And I, let me just tell you, I am not upset at all having the conversation. I have to wear 2 hats. I'm trying to serve those folks. Now, I'm gonna tell everybody what I told the principals in March. And I told them again every week. Stay focused on your primary job. No one, you know, you're running to the fire, so to speak. But when it comes time to return, if we don't have school ready to open in a first class fashion, people are going to forget all about that because we have to deliver our primary service. And we're not only trying to deliver a first class service, we're trying to deliver it in a completely different format.
I think this is more doable now.
All right, I got a motion as amended by Stocksberry. Second.
Second.
Carpenter.
Salisbury,
Yes.
Carpenter,
Yes.
Archer,
Yes.
McElroy,
Yes.
McKee.
Yes. All right, moving on, legislative report.
Before we move on, I apologize. Can you introduce yourself to everyone again?
Yeah.
This mask thing, I don't feel like I can really even see you, like I feel.
Can I take it off?
Yeah,
Of course.
well, let me apologize. I'm not normally that rude. We met briefly in the doorway
Yes.
and everybody's probably wondering, I didn't want to.
Well, that's fine. I understand you have a lot to take care of this evening. But my name is Lynn Warner, and I'm the new board member for ESC, representing Liverpool Local. And I wanted to, come in person and introduce myself and see how things are run here and that type of thing, and let you know I'm available if, there's things that they're concerned about.
I'm glad you
very
came
much.
in person. I thought you were gonna attend virtually. And when I didn't see you on the little thing, I wondered if something happened.
No, I just, work things out where I could come in person, as I thought it would be better than coming virtually.
Yeah,
Thank you, and thank you.
but I appreciated you reaching out and inquiring this morning, so.
When is the next board meeting?
Our normal meeting days are the third Thursday.
Okay.
So we have your email address now. If that changes, we'll add you to the contact list.
Okay,
So you'll know if that changes.
well, thank you.
And truly, this mask is making me crazy. Like, I feel like I'm just detached.
Yeah, but you look.
So, I know, I look better. Hey, but thank you, thanks for coming.
You're very
Thank you
welcome.
very much.
You're welcome.
Thanks, Lynn.
You're welcome. Let's have a good night.
Yes, you
Thank
too.
you. I made you wait for all that, I'm sorry.
No, that's all right. I learned a lot of things tonight, that's important, so.
Well, I can just tell you, you're representing the most innovative, creative, growing school district in your educational service center region. You're visiting the only STEM designated school district in about a 150-mile radius. So, welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We can
Anyway.
we can send her a meeting invite too for September 3rd.
Yeah, did you get the Google invite today?
Yes.
Okay, so we'll just repeat that process.
Okay,
And that way you'll have it. So if you're welcome to come in person, but if you want to attend virtually, you'll have that option as well.
thank you.
No problem.
Yeah, I didn't.
All right, legislative, we got anything? In the facts and flash and all that?
I have a question. So the email, is that, conference going to be virtual?
Yeah.
Does that mean that we don't
I'm
have to
sorry,
go,
what are we
or-
talking
Does that mean we don't have to go, or?
Don't have to go.
Conference.
about? The OSBA?
It's virtual, isn't it?
I thought I got that email that said it was going to be virtual.
No, I think it is. It's-
That's how I read it.
Listen, it's,
I apologize, I don't know.
no, it's okay. I think it's virtual.
I was hoping we wouldn't.
I'm sure it is, so we're.
That means we don't have to go, right?
Yeah, no.
That's what I got out of it. Wouldn't work that day, I'll have to work.
The
I can
biggest
try to
thing
get
going
more
on
information.
legislatively, my concern is House Bill 606, and that is the deal with COVID immunity and, people being able to take legal suit against business, industry, school systems, athletic events, entertainment value to say, I contracted COVID that month. Everybody's told me that it's going to, that there was a workers' comp issue, but when they went back to recess, there's really still nothing that's happened, so.
How can they prove that's what they got? I mean, that's
So they're,
fascinating.
so you're thinking that they're not going to pass it, that legal action can't be taken? Is that what you're saying?
I'm just surprised it hasn't passed yet. If it were going to.
If it passes, it'll be in our favor. Anyway, vacation report, the board bulletin's there. Lucy, have anything else to say, you know, to Trina?
No.
They rescinded the employment contract with Jim O'Neill.
I don't know.
Did you hear anything anymore?
I really have no idea.
With who?
Jim O'Neill, he's the adult
Oh, yeah.
education power line guy. He calls me about once every 2 weeks, hey, got a guy. So,
Finance, Trina?
I have a very exciting report to share with you guys. I don't know if anybody got a chance to look at it ahead of time because I was still making changes last minute. But I got to talk to Dan a little bit about it in between other things that were going on. But this is going to take and give you a really nice graph of what our spending looks like, and then a really nice graph of what our performance index looks like, and then a cross section of our spending and our performance index and compare it to some of our peers. And there's two different peer groups that we're going to be looking at. One of them is a set of peers local, and then there's a set of peers that have all across the state who have similar enrollment to us and similar low income or poverty levels as we do. So, and then there's also a slide at the end that is kind of a forecast overview. So don't feel like you have to, you're welcome to ask questions, but if you want to pull this up later and absorb some of the data and then call me with questions at a time that's convenient for you, that's more than welcome. So the top slide is what I'm calling our Noble Local School District peers. And we are the top line. The symbols over here on the right-hand side tell you what each color means. But basically, our per spending per pupil is the $22,000 figure over here. Right here.
That's what we spend
This
per
is us.
pupil.
Yes, and this is in 2019. Okay. So some interesting information to take from this is that of our peer groups, this particular peer group, our neighbors, we are a top spender. Okay, and we have, this is the average of our group, and this is where we are. Now, don't take that as bad news, because this purple color right here, other uses of funds, that means it includes our transfers to the permanent improvement fund.
So you take that out, it's going to.
Well, it also includes that for our peers. So it's not like it includes it for us and doesn't include it for them. It's all of us being characterized under the same criteria. Okay? Now, keep all that in mind and then look at the bottom chart, which is districts who have similar enrollment and similar low income qualities, meaning that 32 to 38%. And among them, we are also considered one of the top spenders. On the next slide, takes our spending over several years, starting in 2007. And you can see how low we were way back in 2007. We weren't even close to this average. They're down here under, it's kind of fuzzy, but it's like 6,000. Okay, and how we steadily have grown since then and made big improvements. All of a sudden, we started spending money on capital improvement projects, and where we are today. The bottom chart, which you can barely see, you don't need to see the names, they're not the important part, but this is for the whole state, not just those particular peer groups that I pulled out. So out of the whole state of Ohio, Noble Local is highlighted here. There's only two that spend more than us per student. Only two. Clinton Bay and Orange City are the two that are higher than us.
So this can actually be perceived as good and bad.
Right? It's but I'm painting a picture here.
So where do we start with this?
Yeah. So keep all that in mind, and then take a chance to absorb this information. On the left is our Noble Local, our neighbors, that peer group. And on the right is the similar enrollment, similar low income level chart. And in So of our neighbors, okay, here we are. This side is our performance index score, and this is average of the group, okay, name of the district, and our spending. Let's see. No, this is just performance index, sorry. This doesn't have the spending included in it yet. That's the next line. So we are the top performer of our group.
So I'd like to point out that in 2012, before that trend started, there were only 9 districts ahead of us in spending, and your performance index was significantly low. So our spending, other than capital, really hasn't changed.
Amongst our peers, so this is really good news, right? So we're exceeding all of these neighbors on performance index. We're still doing really well when you compare us in this peer group. People with similar enrollment, similar income levels. We're really close to the average, and we're not at the end. But the picture that I think this paints is maybe where we would like to be compared to these peers. So we're really, really good compared to these, and we've got a little margin for improvement compared to this group. Then take that and combine it into, oh, and by the way, the state average was 89.4. So we're just like right there. Okay. This chart actually has little dots on it, but I needed to make it this small in order to get the whole thing to fit on my screen. So I circled us in red, but there's little dots all along this line. You can see them, they're like here and here and here. This is us over here, with performance index being on this line and spending being on this line. So we're top spending and top PI score. So that's good news, right? That's something we can be really proud of. This is our neighboring peer group, by the way. The next slide is taking that similar enrollment and similar income peer group, and here we are again, clear over here, and they're like, there's a dot, and there's a dot. So we are still the top spender, and we're in the middle of the pack on PI score. So again, not an unfavorable story, but maybe saying a little bit about where we might like to be someday.
We've made a huge change that's going to directly affect this group right here. STEM and ability grouping.
I think STEM will be the major.
STEM's going to be the main thing, but this group in this district has been predisposed to less rigor and less opportunity. And quite frankly, that has not happened across this state since the late 90s.
So this is more socioeconomic versus district.
Yeah, it's how our enrollment in the lowest 32 to 38% of the poverty. But we also know that our performance index and our growth in this area has been, we've done well on our growth score, so we are making progress.
And we're not at the bottom, even within this group, we're not at the bottom, we're kind of in the middle. So I think, again, that's not necessarily a negative picture, but maybe saying something about, and when we come back and revisit this next year at this time, and the year after that at this time, where we might want to be. We could even pull up this slide and say, well, here's where we were, and here's where we are now. So that's going to be really exciting. And then the last slide is forecast oriented, and it's just one of those snapshots of, so the green line is our cash balance, where we were 2017, and going clear up into the forecast. Let's see, I can't even read it, it's too fuzzy. Red is expense and blue is revenue. So what I like about this picture is we're spending within what we're bringing in. We know what this anomaly was right here, and it wasn't that far over. You wouldn't want to consistently plan on that happening over and over again. And we're not.
Well, leaving the 2 million this year,
Mm-hmm.
help us in the next one. You take the capital projects off of them other slides though, and that would be a whole different, you know what I mean?
And I do have, I didn't want to be overwhelming tonight because I just wanted to introduce you to this material. But I can manipulate that data any way I want, and I actually have them pulled out for myself that way. And I also have this exact same data pulling us out, like this is general fund only. So our expenditures are more like $32,000 per child if you took all funds into consideration. But again, I didn't want to overwhelm you with, well, this is general fund, this is all funds, this is our peers, this is our similar low income. You know, I just wanted to, I know it still seems a little overwhelming, but I wanted to just introduce you to the data tonight. That was my goal. And then I think maybe at each board meeting, I'll bring something different to you, and we'll just this is where we're going to start building from.
There's a couple of things that you've heard me say since we've all been around each other. We can't buy better educational performance. I've said that since 2013, but we have to instruct a whole lot differently. We have to believe that all kids can learn. I mean, there are just some things inherently we need to do different. What we're doing in PI is something completely different, but I'll give you a great idea. One of the things we've talked about since March, the pandemic serves as a magnifying glass of good and bad. The bad is inconsistency of so many things in our district really stalls some of our growth. So, for example, expectations among different ability groups has stifled this number. The fact that you can go, if you have 4 different K through 4 classrooms, and we don't even yet use common assessments across those classrooms. So what happens is, if 4 of us are in 4 different classrooms, we come out of the same grade level, sometimes with a completely different education. That truly should have been the first step in educational reform back when Race to the Top, if not before, when Race to the Top and TIF started, that should have been the first change. It's okay for teachers to teach it differently and have that academic freedom, but our assessment of where kids are should be common. So then what's happened when you hear about teacher-based teams, and we're coming to talk about our data, we can't even talk about comparative data in many cases because we didn't even assess the same standards at the same time using the same assessment. There's so many functional things about consistency that need to change for one thing, but it's definitely a step in the right direction. Conversation with an older gentleman today that was driving by, taking a look at all of our stuff and questioning some of our expenditures. I said, so in 1963, people in this community made a huge investment, a high school here, some consolidation. And when they did that planning, they thought, 50 years from now, we've set our district up for 50 years. And guess what? It's time for us, which is what we're doing, to set the district up for the next 50 years. And we're doing this without any increase in cost to our taxpayers. In fact, our residents pay 55% less than our comparison group. So in those same groups that Trenda brought up that's in our comparison group, understand we're there in expenditures and our taxpayers pay 55% less than those that we're compared to.
I'd like to see
It's a pretty good deal.
That's pretty amazing, really.
It is.
Hey, Trina, not to backtrack, you said we got our settlement, was it the same as last time?
Oh, the second half
Yeah.
settlement, it was,
Assuming if you just, it would be the same, right?
it was very close to what I expected. We haven't got Monroe County's settlement yet, so like to look at it, I started to pull it up and compare it like on the forecast, what we forecasted to what we actual, but it's off because we haven't got Monroe County yet. And so then I decided just to pull that off and wait till next time, because we should be getting it very soon. But it wasn't what we got last time. It was more, but it was in line with what we expected. At least for the Noble County side. And Guernsey County is not that much. It wouldn't affect our analysis either way. But as soon as we get that Monroe County number, then I'll come back to you guys with a comparison like we did last time.
Anything else?
No, Trina.
Thanks,
Yeah, that's pretty amazing.
Sure. And if, like I said, if you look at that later and you have more questions or would like data presented in a different way, we have lots of options there, so.
Superintendent?
Okay, we have a first read of a number of policies for you to review. This is to stay current with the policy manual. All of these are required revisions, required new.
They have one there to, go back, we can send it on the new policies. Right there, AFC-1, evaluation of professional staff, and that has use of face covering. And then just implementing a.
Oh, it's two separate. The use of face coverings is one
Oh, that
policy.
PDEA is one, that's, okay.
Yeah, it's not yeah.
Thanks. I thought that was odd to put that as a play. How does that play? You have to have.
Yeah, it's just that one has an asterisk beside it and the
Yeah.
other doesn't, so it makes it look like it's a continuation
Yeah.
of that, but it's not.
Okay, probably the document I'm most interested in, we've already talked phase 4. Our enrollment update is there. So it's odd when you look at the data. I've given you 2021 data is the first column. Last year's data is the second column. Open enrollment in, open enrollment out is for 2021. And how many kids by grade level are choosing remote is the last column. So if you look at column 1, 1,053 is our total enrollment, including preschool. That's up 14 students to date. I can tell you that there is another stack at each office to process, so we're still adding kids. But if you take the up 14, then you take the increase in 25, well, I guess I can't, because the enrollment on the left includes that up 25. So if you just take the 25 and 9, that's a turnaround, basically 34 newly enrolled kids, 9 kids that returned and 25 new compared to last year. So 34 kids, roughly $216,000. Just depending on if you would be 204 if you just use the $6,000 number, kids that were maybe inactive.
But 25 should actually probably be 27 or 28.
It would be. These numbers were actually taken, toward the end of last year.
Do we have any open enrollment? Because we are going five days a week right now?
No one has listed that as a reason that I'm aware of. I'd tell you what, I've probably had a dozen calls from Marietta.
Really?
Marietta's only going 4 days this week. They go 4 days every 2 weeks. And guess what? Everybody has to pay for childcare for the whole month.
Oh,
So that's, that we're maximizing our service to our community.
4 days in 1 week? 2 days a week?
No, they go 4 days this week and no days next week.
Oh, no days next week. Wow.
Whoa, I didn't know that.
No, and
I don't think a lot of people know that.
Well, like Cambridge is going, what, 4 days and then 1 remote.
so think about the people that say, we're gonna go 2 days. Listen, there's so much buffaloing of people out. Think about the 2 days, Monday, Tuesday, take Wednesday off. Why take one cleaning? Well, hasn't every year we've been in school, we clean at the end of the day and it's ready to go the next day? Why do you need a whole day? Okay?
That's what it is.
Yeah. And I tell you what, Mid-East did that without any feedback from their partner schools.
But aren't they going 2 different groups? Isn't there like a group?
Yeah, they're doing a Monday, Tuesday,
Monday,
Tuesday, and then a Thursday,
All
Friday.
Tuesday, Thursday, Friday.
There's,
You're confident, you're pretty confident that 105 will be down?
it's actually grown a little bit. I think that number is a little high, because I think there's some people that have opted out that are still included here. But I can also tell you that number just 10 days ago was in the 60s.
There was a kindergarten from last year, mostly this year, the first grade of this year.
Yes. But you gotta remember, so, yeah, so the first grade in 2021 was kindergarten last year.
Yeah, I was just trying to look across there to see what the difference is. You know, like there's 2 from the third grade from last year, now gained 2, and then that's just going down to see that way. What's the 8th grade this year? What's that figure? Is that 68 or 88?
66.
66. So what's the big difference there?
It's a small class.
Well, it was 78 last year, is what I'm saying, we lost 12. Is there?
I'd say 78 to 66.
Yeah, I mean, is there any correlation? Did you see any?
I haven't looked at individual. This is just rough data.
Okay.
You're kind of looking at it as I am. I look at the totals.
Yeah.
He's still pretty amazing here.
You still have 14 overall members to be overall now, so you should have gained a member. That's 12. Yeah. That's good.
So one of the things that we predicted that would happen with COVID is we would have some transiency. Because the group that was probably hit financially the hardest would likely be those that are more transient. I think it's also interesting to note in the state of Ohio that 68% of the working population made 34% more during COVID than less.
Say that again.
68% of the working population in Ohio made 34% more money during COVID.
You mean people that was
And 50% of that 68% don't want to go back to work because they're making more money on unemployment.
Yeah, does that count the unemployment piece? There's the thing, yeah, that's.
No, it's the unemployment piece. So you think about how many of the people that lived in poverty. Don't think about the people at the top end, think about the people at the bottom end.
Yeah.
Yeah, the people that made less were the people that didn't, the people that got less were the people that didn't qualify for any of the assistance, yes, they were business owners that lost 80%.
Yep.
That'd be my group.
That'd be me.
Yeah.
How do you feel about that?
Yeah, not one person, my group, including my son, can get any type of.
College students got screwed too.
It's just, so,
You work, you're in college and you don't get the help. That just.
yeah, so, it has been a very interesting period of time. I, for one, find a lot of great opportunities coming out of this. But I will tell you, and I would have this conversation with anybody. I would argue them to find another district anywhere that's going to the links to serve their needs while trying to balance our own, and doing so while their tax rate stays at 55%, of what our comparison school districts are. And I think you guys and gals should be commended for making the long-term investments. It is making a huge difference. Our ag numbers are up right now to 107 kids
Wow.
So,
Wow. Is that including eighth grade?
and 7.
Parker's willing, she said, to show kids how they collect eggs appropriately, move the hens, even the peckers, off of the eggs appropriately and nicely, how to safely carry her eggs back to the refrigerator, because it has to be less than 47 degrees, how to wipe them off carefully, and take them to Shorty's.
Let's say, how about,
Yeah.
Shout out to Shorty's for
That's right.
supporting local small farmers like Parker.
that's all I have to week. Shut down and get Philip home. Philip, thank you. But we're,
Okay, so I got a motion to adjourn.
Yeah.
Carpenter, second. Stotsberry.
Yeah.
So we're not going to executive session?
No.
Okay, Carpenter,
Yes.
Stotsberry?
Yes.
Archer,
Yes.
McElroy, McKee.
Yes.
Yeah.